So I really like Edward T. Hall, and this is from Beyond Culture. He's one of the great 20th century intercultural communication researchers. He was trained as an anthropologist, and he just wrote a slew of really interesting books about culture and its relationship to identity. And here's what Edward T. Hall says. He says, "Culture is man's medium. There is not one aspect of human life that is not touched and altered by culture. This means personality, how people express themselves, including shows of emotion, the way they think, how they move, how problems are solved, how their cities are planned and laid out, how transportation systems function and are organized, as well as how economic and government systems are put together and function. However, like the purloined letter, it is frequently the most obvious and taken for granted, and therefore the least studied aspects of culture that influence behavior in the deepest and most subtle ways." And so, the purloined letter is a detective story by Edgar Allan Poe, and it's like, all the clues are there, but you overlook the obvious. And that's the kind of case he's making for culture. It is all pervasive, it's part of everything we do, and we're always wedded to our culture via our language and our dress and our foods and our preferences of the possibilities of freedom and independence and labor. And in that sense, right, I mean, everybody is linked in some way to culture. Edward T. Hall continues. He says, "One of the functions of culture is to provide a highly selective screen between man and the outside world. In its many forms, culture therefore designates what we pay attention to and what we ignore. This screening function provides structure for the world and protects the nervous system from information overload. Information overload is a technical term applied to information processing systems. It describes a situation in which the system breaks down when it cannot properly handle the huge volume of information to which it is subjective." And so he just like two things here that are really interesting in this quote. The first is to recognize culture has a screening function that designates for us what to pay attention to and what not to pay attention to. And then secondly, he's talking about this concept of information overload because there's so much stimuli out there. If you tried to attend to all of it, you'd go crazy. That's when information overload. It's systemic breakdown from trying to put too much in your head, right? And so the screening function plus this idea of protection against information overload is very interesting.